Well, they really decided to slice the time here. Hey everyone, welcome to Prince of the Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 6 of Blue Eye Samurai, the final series episode reaction of 2024. That's right. After today, the only reaction that's going to be put up are movie reactions. There's going to be a movie tomorrow for the holiday special, and then the final holiday special on the 24th. And that's it for reactions completely this year. Gaming stuff will still resume on the gaming channel, but reactions are taking a break for the holidays. Gaming stuff's already pre-recorded, but I don't want to be recording anything these next couple weeks. I just want to take, a well-deserved holiday break off and to kick things off again in the new year with 2025. But for our last series episode reaction of 2024, we have Blue Eye Samurai, a series that has very much impressed me. And interestingly enough, this is the shortest episode. So I downloaded the episode as normal, and I noticed the runtime. Like, not counting credits, it's like, what, 30 minutes long? Which is still longer than a normal, like, 21-minute anime episode or something. But most of the episodes of this have been 45 minutes to an hour. I think the first episode was actually over an hour. But that's interesting. Mind you, the next two episodes are like the final two of the season and are probably going to become like really important and really like focused and big. So they want like a smaller episode to kind of lead into that. That makes sense. I've seen other shows do this kind of thing before, where prior to the finale they have like a little episode that gives you a little bit of a breather. And it's a smart move, especially after what happened last time with Mizu kind of like pushing everybody away due to the trauma of her past. She had been genuinely in love with a husband that was admittedly chosen for her, but she genuinely fell in love with him. She formed a connection, and despite how she grew up and everything, she found happiness. And then it was all taken away from her because she dared show that she was stronger than him. She dared be stronger than him in swordplay. He got his little ego hurt and turned her in. And like this was kind of a little bit of a contention last time, is like to whether it was him or her mom and everything. And like I was told in the comments, like it was like clearly purposefully vague. Like it could have been either of them or whatnot, or even both of them. But I feel like the visual storytelling is important there. And by his reaction when he like rode up like in the near distance and then turned away on her, I think it was pretty clear that he was the one who did it. And plus, also, when he was called out on it, he was the one who shifted the blame to the mom. There was never, like, any suspicion of her. And yes, she was clearly back on the opium and everything. And you could say, like, maybe she did it for more money for her drugs. And it's possible. It's a possibility, but I feel like there's more evidence to support the idea that it was specifically him. Just way too much evidence supports it being him more than it does her. And so I'm standing by that. I'm standing by that. I believe it was completely on the husband. And it was because of his little ego getting, his little fragile ego getting broken. Because he was defeated in battle with her, and that clearly upset him. He no longer loved her. He no longer saw her as equal or even someone worth associating with. He probably heard that they were looking for her Actually, I think it might have said that he already knew that. If I remember right, I'm not 100% on that one, but either way, he turned her in. And so that's when they came and everything happened. She defeated them. He came crawling back with his tail between his legs, acting like, oh, he was innocent, or he knew she would take them down. And then she accused him. He very defensively blamed the mother and everything. And it's just like, everything went to shit. It destroyed Mizu's ability to trust in people. And so from that point on, she's had like an extremely hard life because she hasn't been like willing to put that trust in anyone again. And that's understandable. Like, that's traumatic as fuck. But we also see multiple times now that she's let her guard down and that she has, even if just a small amount, wanted to put her trust in people again. We've seen it with a few different people now. But every single one she's either turned away from or just abandoned, basically. And her actions here have now started to fuck up people's lives. And that's the thing I don't think she's taking into account. How her actions are starting to affect others. Because with Tengen, knocking him out and leaving him behind caused him to get captured by the bad guys and like violently and horrifically tortured because of it. And now with Akemi, she not only abandoned her, but she gave her away to the people seeking her out. And it caused Akemi to be put into like a horrible situation, destroying like her sense of self and her independence and everything. Destroying everything that made Akemi so great in the first place, honestly. And then there's Ringo, the most loyal of followers who believed in her beyond anyone else, who showed great care for her, who literally helped bring her back to health after she got injured and sick and everything. And she turned her back on him completely. She told him that he was a fool for following her, that she wasn't who he thought she was, and she was just an asshole to him in the end. And Ringo's been someone who has had a hard time clearly finding his own self-worth, but has been, with his positive attitude, working towards it and learning more about what he wants. And so, to have that taken away from him, he showed, probably for the first time, the greatest act of self-respect for himself by choosing to leave her side, by taking off the bell and handing it to her, and basically telling her to go shove it. Basically telling her she's not the person he thought she was, and that he has lost his respect for her. And you could tell it affected her. You could tell like she was actually hurt by that. Because here's the thing. Mizu tries to like focus so much on revenge and to push out her humanity, but she can't. And this is something that is like very hard for a person to do. To actively, purposefully abandon their humanity. Because the things that make them human are innate. They're a part of them. Even some of the worst people in history have had that. They have those little flickers of humanity in them, and that makes them all the worse, honestly. The reason why they're like these huge evils in the world is because they're human. They're not monsters, they're not demons, they're humans who are choosing to make these decisions. And Mizu's going down that path, whether she knows it or not. Her thirst for revenge, her desire to put that above everything else, is consuming her to such a degree that it's going to cause her to become a terrible, possibly evil person, just in order to gain her revenge. And you know that's not what she wants, but she will absolutely do it if it's necessary. She'll do anything that's necessary. I mean, she's proven that multiple times now with some of the mistakes or bad things she's done or felt she had to do. But I don't think Ringo's gonna fully give up on her. I don't think Ringo's story with Mizu is done yet. I think he's going to try and track her down and give her another chance. But she's going to have to wander alone for a bit. And that might be what this episode focuses on. Kind of like like Zuko alone in Avatar: The Last Airbender, or Korra alone in Legend of Korra. Those episodes where the characters are completely alone, where they have no one else with them, and even the bonds they forge on the road don't end up working out for them. Because of their own actions, because of their own insecurities, their own pains, their own problems that they just can't let go of. It very much feels like it could be going that route with Mizu, and I really hope it does, because both of those are like amongst the best episodes of Avatar and Korra. So I would love to see that kind of thing with this. And considering this series is very clearly inspired by a lot of things, including anime, I wouldn't be surprised if a anime-inspired American cartoon could have also inspired this. Now, with all of that being said, I don't know where Akemi's story is going, because Akemi's kind of the deuteragonist of this series. She's the secondary main character who it's also following along with. And her entire story has been one of independence, of self-worth, knowing who she is and knowing that she's not the kind of person to live like she is now forced into. So I'm wondering if she's going to find a way out of this situation. And if she's going to get back to the main story again and find a way to reunite with Tengen. That's the only thing I'm assuming could happen, really. Because she's not going to stick with this. She's there for now because she's literally forced to be. And she's playing along because Akemi does that. Akemi plays the long game. We know this. She will play along with people in order to get what she wants and get what she needs. She's waiting. And I don't know where that's going to cut at. I don't know like what we're going to see with how she gets out of this entire situation, but I'm definitely curious. But let's get into this. These pre-thoughts have gone on long enough, but there's, let's be honest, quite a bit to talk about going into this, especially since it is the final reaction to this for the year. Let's get into the episode, though, and see what it has in store for us. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And don't forget about all the gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. We have Baldur's Gate 3 every single day, Horizon Forbidden West on Mondays and Fridays, Tuesdays and Thursdays is Life is Strange, Wednesdays and Sundays is Red Dead Redemption 2, and on Saturdays we have Nier Automata. A lot of great gaming content every day. Don't forget to click the link in the description below to follow it to today's reaction. I redirect everything just due to copyright reasons. And please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you want to see more awesome content such as this. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I think there's two kinds of people, two kinds of reactions that viewers would have to this episode. The first reaction, the first kind of person, is the person who's going to look at this episode and say, oh, this is really cool. It's really badass, all this great action, all these really interesting and unique traps. Like, things are really fun, things are really exciting, the music really kicks off. And in the end, Mizu finally makes the right decision and decides to actually be a samurai. She decides to actually live up to Ringo's view of her. And the second type of person, the second perspective to have on this, is Mizu should have been dead like 10 minutes into this episode. Like, you can't even say luck would have gotten her through this. She should have been dead. Everything she did is not just improbable, but impossible for a human to actually have gotten through. She getting through this to this point where she could even reach Fowler is just not realistic and not believable at all. The music is distracting to suddenly bring in this, like, this cool rock and metal music that just doesn't fit the tone of anything. Some of the stuff is kind of confusing as to how it, like, fits in with the world and how it works and everything. Things just seem kind of off. And the episode feels very off in terms of how it's presented compared to every other episode. And then there's the ending where she finally decides to become a samurai, and, you know, that's cool, that's good. I'm part of the second camp, if that's not clear. This episode was not good. It wasn't, like, terrible or anything. Like, the action was fun. The action was fun. The animation was great. Obviously, the voice acting is just as good as ever. There's no issue with that. But like I said, Mizu should have been dead. Like, 10 minutes into this episode, pretty much. Like, there's certain things like, okay, I can imagine her being able to hold her breath long enough to get through the water. Sure, whatever. But with the amount of mistakes she was constantly making, and with the amount of, like, pain her body would have been in, well before she ever made it to Fowler, she would not have survived. She would absolutely not have fucking survived. She wouldn't have even made it to the giant. Honestly, she wouldn't have made it past the monkeys. There's so many points. The point, like, past the spike traps and everything, where she's fighting all of those soldiers, and goes into the fight barehanded, she would not have won that. She would have been, like, you know, run through with so many swords right away. No matter how good of a hand-to-hand fighter she is, which there's not really a lot of precedence to believe she is that good of a hand-to-hand fighter, compared to her swordplay and weapon use and all. I'm sorry, she would not have survived that. With the amount of, like, pain her body was already in, like her foot having been impaled and everything, it's like, she would not have been able to get past the spike traps to even get to that point. Because here's the thing. Yeah, some people are tough to be able to work through certain amounts of pain, but there's certain things that you just can't, a human body just can't work through. If you have the capacity, the ability to feel pain, you're not going to be able to be moving the way she's moving with her foot injured like that. And, you know, dunking it in a tub of ice water to try and numb it, that's only going to be temporary, if anything. And some people may be saying, but, oh, you're overanalyzing it. It's not meant to be realistic. It's like this entire series has been, like, bound in realism. like, this is not like a supernatural show. This entire series is bound in realistic, like, actions and whatnot. Injuries given to people, like, have real effects on them. Yes, this is supposed to be realistic. Mizu can handle certain amounts of pain. This has been shown. She's tough. But not that tough, because no one is that tough. Also, the giant guy getting, impaled through the fucking neck and then acting as if nothing happened, just pulling the sword out and acting as if nothing happened. No. I'm sorry. You get impaled through the neck like that, you're not going to be acting as if nothing happened, no matter how tough and strong and big you are. That's just fucking not possible. Listen. I'm all for cool action. I'm all for, like, really excellent stuff. But when you establish a series to take place within the real world and the confines of the real world, you have to abide by those rules that you set up. This entire episode was pretty much nothing but that, too, by the way. Like, the story of this episode is so, like, bare bones. This episode isn't about plot. It's about cool action and Mizu sneaking her way to get to Fowler. Not even sneaking, really. Fighting her way to get to Fowler. Failing at even having a chance against Fowler. And then abandoning her revenge for the time being, because she finally realizes not only can she not do it, but she finally realizes that her heart's been telling her that she's been making the wrong decisions every step of the way. The ending is great. I love with her figuring that out and seeing the flashbacks and seeing her mind, like, working through all of that throughout the entire episode. That I loved. But that's the only part of this episode I liked. Again, the music is so distracting. Having, like, the cool action music that you would hear in, like, a Marvel movie in this, it's like that. It doesn't fit the tone of this series. It didn't even fit the scenes that they were in, because it was so off-putting. It was so out of place for this show. I don't know if this episode was just, like, supposed to be, like, this kind of, like, cool fantasy thing prior to the finale, to end it off, like, let's have some big, cool, action focused episode just for shits and giggles. We're not going to make it as long. We're not going to have any real story focus. It's mostly just going to be like 99% action. Just for the shits and giggles, just for the fun, just because it's cool. Because that's all this episode was. It was living by the rule of cool. And I'm sorry, you can't do that with a show like this. It doesn't work. Again, that's more fitting for, like, a Marvel movie or something. The only way this would be reasonable is if it revealed it was all a dream, which is usually a cop-out. But that is the only thing that would actually, like, make it, like, serviceable as to have happened. Because that's how out of place it was, how unrealistic it was, how unfitting it was for the series. It didn't fit with the series at all. It was so, like, tonally different. But it was also just not abiding by the rules that this series has set forth for its world, which is the real world, and not abiding by, like, anything, like, in terms of, like, just how this series works. Again, outside of, like, the ending with her finally, like, choosing to focus on living and everything for now over her revenge. Again, that part was good. That part fit. That part felt like it had been coming for episodes now. But everything else, it's just like, and I think part of the idea here is like this is what happens when Mizu tries to go it alone. This is what happens when she refuses to rely on the help from others. She like forces herself to get through this purely on the anger in her heart, on the vengeance in her soul. And it just ends up being a massive failure for her where she has to reevaluate her entire life and her viewpoint on everything. Like, I feel like that's the intent with it. And so having this, you know, action music and um, unrealistic actions and just survivability and stuff is kind of a way of like showcasing like how far gone she is and how like separated from the rest of the world and reality she is with this vengeance. But it doesn't work, in my opinion at least. Again, like I said, there's two kinds of people with this episode for sure. The people who really love it and think it's just fucking cool, and the people who just can't buy into it whatsoever. And I'm definitely on that end. And don't get me wrong, I think the action and stuff in this is really cool. Like from the perspective of like action sequences and stuff. Like yeah, it's badass. But it's badass in a way that does not make sense for this series. It's badass in a way that does not make sense for, again, the realism of wounds and just how people react to wounds in this world, in the real world. Because the amount of damage that Mizu took in this infiltration was so far greater than wounds that have actually laid her out. The damage she took in the battle with those four samurai guys or whatever, or I think it was four of them. You know, the one guy from her past and the goons who were after her as well. And Ringo and Taigen had to help nurse her back to health. The wounds she took in that battle were far, far less than the wounds she took in like the first 10 minutes of this episode, pretty much. She took so much more damage here and just continued on as if it were nothing. When wounds much lesser than that have laid her completely out to the point of where she couldn't really keep conscious half the time. It's like, no. Like, no. I'm sorry. No matter how fucking cool it is, it just does not work. I'm just hoping that with the last two episodes of the season, it goes back to the realism. And mind you, it's like, I'm not saying that they actually should do the dream cop-out or anything. This happened. This absolutely happened, and it was 100% Ringo who saved her and Taigen at the end there. This absolutely happened. She failed to get her revenge, but she did save Taigen. This is just something that occurred, and they definitely have to stick with this. Trying to go back and say it's like a dream or something at this point would just ruin the series. It would feel like such a cop out and would just feel like an absolute like slap in the face to everyone watching this. They have to stick with their mistake here. They have to stick with this episode, and they have to improve with the final two. And I want to make clear, just because this episode I found to be bad, doesn't mean I suddenly hate the series. Like I said, they would have to really fuck up in how they, like, moved on from this in the next two episodes to actually, like, fuck up this series as a whole. Which I don't think they're going to do. I think it's going to go back to how it was in the rest of the episodes. I think that this was, like I said, just an episode prior to the finale to really, really just ramp up the action, really just be cool. just have an episode for coolness sake. And thankfully, I don't see the last 2 episodes being like this. I thankfully see them going back to normal. Which is good, because like I said, I did not like this episode. And I'm going to keep saying it. Like, I found it to be bad. It was not a good episode. And, I mean, I've said it before, there's no such thing as a perfect series. Because with a series that has a bunch of episodes, whether it be episodic or serial, not every episode's going to be on the same quality. There's shows that I think have gotten pretty damn close, like Carol and the End of the World, or Carol on Tuesday. The Carol shows. Why are the Carol shows the closest to perfection I've seen with a series? That's so fucking weird, actually. I don't think I thought about that before. That's really funny to me right now. But, yeah, it's like, outside of, like, those shows, and maybe Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, like, shows aren't perfect. Some episodes are going to be bad. And even with those shows, there are some episodes that are not as good. But like I said, those are the ones that are just the closest to being perfect that I've seen. Feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Whew, called it. But yeah, every series otherwise has like not great episodes. Legend of Korra, Owl House, Adventure Time. All these shows have episodes that just don't live up to the others. And this is just one of those episodes. It doesn't ruin the entire series, as long as it doesn't continue down this path. If it continues to be like this, then yes, it ruins the entire series. But if it's just one episode that's just bad like this, it's not a big deal. I can move past it. Hoping that's what it is. Obviously, do not tell me. No spoilers, especially since we are going into our winter break now. We are going to be taking the next 2 weeks off. But on January 3rd, Friday, January 3rd, we will be back with reactions, and we will be back on that day with more Blue Eye Samurai, as well as Gentry Chow. We're going to be doing Gentry Chow as well as a little extra bonus for that day, just because it's our first day back, and it's just a weird day to come back at the end of the week. But yeah, there will be more Blue Eye Samurai on that day, our first day back, Friday, January 3rd. So tell me your thoughts on this episode, and which person are you? Are you the like, oh, it's cool and I like it? Or are you the, it's cool and I just don't believe this could have happened camp? Which side are you on? Let me know, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.